Hey there, it's Rusty Nelson, your college art professor, and we are talking watercolor today. Hey, welcome aboard. If you've just discovered the channel and this vlog, you're going to see that this is really a video category in my bucket that I like to do just to practice being on screen and being a talking head and learning how to speak extemporaneously. Anybody who is a common viewer knows this spiel. I go over this about every episode, just trying to get a better screen persona developed, and that's fairly difficult, a lot more difficult than I ever imagined. I've talked about this in the past, where I never envisioned being on screen, being on camera, being on video this much. And it was kind of a development from one of my senior level design courses a few years ago, where everything we were doing design wise was for social media. And it kind of led me into investigating the whole idea behind social media, side hustles, ways of using the new media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, as a means of having a career. So that led me into investigating this, and I thought I'd better learn something about it, since it's becoming a fairly large component to our design program, and has become a more dominant feature in a design program that every program should be, and most are using and developing skills towards. So I started doing this, and it ultimately, my investigation led me to the conclusion that I could probably do something like this, oriented around my interests in watercolor and drawing and figure drawing thing. Just a whole range of my visual interests. I'm an older guy. I'm approaching retirement. I thought this would be a great thing for other retirees, soon to be retirees, mid-career people who maybe got away from art. They were once interested in it, they're returning to it, or they just haven't ever picked up the notion that they could be creative and visual. So that's kind of what I was thinking behind why I started my channel, and what I hope to accomplish. So I've been doing, for about the last year and 7 months now, these tutorials, these demos on watercolor and drawing, and some of my best videos so far have been drawing tutorials oriented around drawing faces and people. So it's kind of evolving, taking a little bit of a different track than I originally thought it would, but I'm keeping that content going, providing essentially the free tutorials and lessons that I provide up at the university for my 20-year-olds, those kids coming in out of high school, coming into programs. And again, I teach graphic design, so a lot of what I now teach at the university level is tutorials and demos in a digital format, working with the Adobe software or other apps on iPads and things like that, oriented around design. So it's kind of nice to do this channel oriented around the traditional media I learned when I was in college. So back in the day, it was an important thing to be able to do as a designer, was to be able to draw and to create images, illustrate, essentially, with whatever media. It's just something I always kept doing since then. And as the technology has evolved and grown in the design field, some of the traditional media has definitely taken a back seat, up to the point where everything we do in our program now, there's very little traditional media left. Everything, if it's an illustration, we're digitally painting it in whatever app, Photoshop, Procreate. There's a whole host of ways of creating those images now. So anyway, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing on this channel. I always forget to kind of bring that into the forefront. So that's what I'm doing. And if you think I'm doing anything worth a hoot with this channel, please give me a like and a subscribe. I never remember to do a mid pitch like that either. So anyway, I've been learning tons and tons of stuff about YouTube, how to create videos, best practices for all of that, in addition to trying to bring all of my traditional media skills up to a point where they're worthy of recording and posting out to YouTube. So it's been quite the creative journey for me in the last year and a half, learning a whole new medium, as in video, audio, being on camera, speaking. Boy, I wish I'd have paid more of attention to my public speaking courses in college than I did. Let's look here. I have a ton. Yeah, I have a ton of comments recently. I do have a pretty good drawing demo using Loomis and the Riley method, kind of walking through the whole structural method of building and constructing a face. It just dropped on Saturday, and it's really performing pretty well. One of my better ones in the last couple months. I've been kind of preoccupied. I've been driving that struggle bus for the last few weeks, so it's kind of nice to have a little breathing room to be able to do these talking watercolors and these demos. I've been doing a lot of them like within an hour before I head up to the university to teach my class for the last 3 weeks. So it's been a struggle. I've been typically posting 2 tutorials a week along with the talking watercolor, and I had to kind of cut back to 1 a week. And I have 2 semesters left. It's a crazy thing to start thinking about, that I am closing out my career in higher education. So, and then I can definitely keep pushing and working with my YouTube channel once that's gone. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're working to make a transition back to where we are originally from. We're leaving the college town we currently live in. So let me look at some of the comments here, if I can find them. Now I'll focus on the ones oriented around the recent video. The one Loomis, my initial big blowout video, that viral video I did on Loomis about last September, I guess it was. It has received about, maybe 850,000 views, and that's just crazy to think of. And it was such a throwaway video. I was just, sitting down in a 20-minute session and sketching out a Loomis head, and it really did connect. So I have kind of done a follow-up on that with combining not only Loomis, the structure of the Loomis head, but layering in the Riley method on top of it. So you can kind of see how those 2 methods work together. And boy, I tell you, the Loomis or the Riley or any kind of a method really does generate a lot of strong opinions from people, and definitely from, I think, probably more traditionally trained artists, maybe more of an art institute trained subsect of the people out there learning. I never had the luxury of, especially in college, of having extensive figure drawing classes, and where I think maybe with art institutes and more traditional programs that are oriented around creating artists and portrait artists, things like that. So I never had that luxury in my college program. I think I had 1 figure drawing class, and it was really pretty loosey-goosey. And because I did this in the early 80s when I had my figure drawing class, and it was really just pretty much oriented around sighting and getting a good sense of form and proportion through gesture drawing. So there was no real deep, I guess, training on how to draw the figure. And I do know that there are a lot of programs and figure drawing courses that really, it just depends. There's lots and lots of approaches to it. And one of them is, going in and learning the anatomy, the underlying structures, the skeletal structure and the muscle structures before you really are ever allowed to start drawing the figure itself. So, but that I never did learn. I did learn a lot of the sighting processes, relative positioning, and developing a hand at the mark making, through those figure drawing classes. So, but that was 1 class back in the day, and I probably didn't touch and take another figure drawing class until all of a sudden I was tasked with teaching it. So, and when I started teaching it, it was pretty much the way I was taught. Throw the students into a room with a model and give them a piece of charcoal and tell them to start learning to, figuring it out themselves. And I had to do some quick demos on just rudimentary structure that they could work with. And I quickly discovered that wasn't enough, which led me to a lot of investigating, searching the internet on better means of getting students up and off the ground within one semester, because that's essentially all our program really requires, as well as one class in figure drawing. And trust me, one class is not going to get you there. You might get a rudimentary understanding of what you need to learn if you're really interested in the subject matter. But yeah, one class just doesn't do it. So, and I can definitely see from the comments, there are some people who had some serious courses with figure drawing in various places across the world. Had a very interesting comment from a person who had a course in Russia with a traditional program, traditional approach to figure drawing, where they did have to learn and understand the structure, the skeletal structure at any angle, and then working in muscle structure and everything, so that they could then properly draw through careful observation the figure. And they were definitely, saying, hey, it's the best way, it looks the best, and this and that. But again, with other programs, we don't have that luxury. You got to get the students up and off the ground, where I do think the Loomis, the Riley, or even a number of other methods will benefit a student with that kind of a limited time at it. So at least give them enough information that they can be somewhat successful with their drawing, and they feel encouraged that they want to pursue it further, and then they can go deeper down the rabbit hole in more traditional processes and methods. So yeah, somebody was mentioning, why don't instructors teach like the inner cross or the plumb line methods in figure drawing anymore? And frankly, I didn't necessarily have it labeled with a method, but definitely it's always a thing that I focus on in my figure drawing classes. Once you understand some of these fundamental structures and or methods, you do have to observe carefully and use relative position if your eye is here, and relate, triangulate to find proper angles and lengths and things like that to get a facial feature constructed. So, I've never used just one process and method. And I think I've even said in the past, if I had to create a portrait that looked like somebody, as a designer, I didn't have time to either spend trying to get it to look right on my own, or you could just go essentially trace it and get the facial features correctly placed. And then it's just a matter of tone and or color, depending upon how you're going to illustrate it. So there's a lot of different cheats that you can work with. And frankly, over time, those cheats will teach you a lot about the faces and stuff like that. But I agree, ultimately working with your observation and sighting and understanding anatomy, and that's probably the best. It's just that it's the optimal, but it's not sometimes the most practical way, especially in a college situation where you have limited amount of time, or you just simply won't get the students to a point that they need to be functioning at. They can pursue the depth later on. So anyway, that's kind of my spiel for today, talking about Lumis and Riley. I've got more that I'll be doing, but I have some nice watercolors coming up in the next week or two. I'll try to get back to my 2 a week, so I'll do a drawing and a watercolor demo a week. And we'll see if I can maintain that pace throughout the course of the fall semester. So other than that, thanks for watching. And if you got any value out of this little visit today, please give me a like and a subscribe, and drop me some comments. I like the comments a lot. You guys are really giving me a lot of things to investigate and to learn about and to practice and see how it works into what I like doing. And if you think I'm doing anything on this channel that is really helpful and worthy of some financial support, head over to my Patreon channel and give me a $5 a month membership. It does help immensely, keeps me going, keeps the encouragement high, the levels high for me. And if you want some supplies, resources, head into the video description. You can bounce into my website, download those resources on Lumis, Riley. I have several other things, some design principles and elements that resources you can download too. It might help you out with understanding your palette of tools that you're working with and or composition. Let me think here. Anything else? I don't think so. Oh, supplies. Those links in the video description for supplies and equipment, those kick you over to Amazon. They're affiliate links, so I do get a small commission on anything you buy using those links. So, hey, I'm glad you tuned in. Sorry for the long episode, and I'll see you next week talking watercolor.